Hey there, everyone. It's Coach Curl here, coming to you for a Facebook Live here late on a Thursday, Easter Thursday, coming in to what normally would be quite a festive, I suppose, 4-day weekend. A little bit different with the COVID-19. I've got right beside me here, it's my real pleasure to introduce you to Cindy Corrie. Now, Cindy is an amazing human. And she's been doing a lot of work around the concept of good humans. And one of the reasons why I just thought, let's just do a Facebook Live and let's just have a bit of a chat. Because being a good human at the moment is probably the best thing that we can be. And I think the world in general needs to have a lot more good humans. So we've had change impacted on us. We've had restrictions impacted on us. And some people haven't responded as well as what others have. And some people are still being quite stressful, nervous, anxious about some of those changes, whereas a lot of people are still being incredibly blasé around some of those changes. So I thought, who best to talk to than the expert on being a good human? Cindy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Tony, how are you?
I'm fantastic. So tell me a little bit and share with the people watching what being a good human and some of the research and stuff that you're working on, what does it actually mean? Because I think fundamentally, sorry, I asked you a question, then I think, no, I want to ask some more. I think fundamentally, I think everyone likes to think that we're all good and have the right intention. So over to you. Tell me about good humans.
That's exactly right. I think that humans are inherently good, and we do want what's best for the other good humans in our lives and in our families and in our communities. So, I think that inherently we all kind of want to do the right thing, and we all want to treat each other well in the way that we would like to be treated.
Yeah.
But really, good human inclusion strategies is about making or helping business leaders, even if you're a one-man band, to work with their communities, to work with the people who work with them in their businesses, to ensure that we are being good humans and that we're communicating well about ways that we can provide a sense of belonging in terms of people's commitment to, using small business is a great example at the moment, that sense of belonging in a small business community, and also a respect for the unique and individual things that people bring to a workplace or even an interaction with a business. So it's really about getting people to commit to a certain set of behaviours, I guess.
Yeah, and standards with those behaviours.
Yeah, but really it's about businesses taking ownership of really working on what they are and making them meaningful for that business.
Okay.
So I will work with organisations to say, especially small businesses particularly, you may not have organisational values, but what are the guided behaviours that you like to see in the way that you do business with your customers and the way that you want your customers to interact with your business?
Yeah.
So while they don't sort of intrinsically do that whole organisational value stuff, but that's a way for us to guide the way that we interact with each other.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, there's the more explicit ways that we say this is how we do things and how we don't do things. So that's really through, your policies and frameworks and things like that. But it's about putting a human element to it. It's about making it about how we feel when we're doing those things. And it's just a different approach to doing a lot of the good business practice that we know works.
Yeah, and in some ways it's would be quite foreign to some people. So some people may have a very self-centered approach, and some of them may see that as part of necessity. I've got to look after myself because no one else is. And part of those good human inclusion practices is about having an empathy. I would imagine teaching and working with that concept of empathy would be something that you would be doing, because having empathy for other people, which is vastly different from having sympathy for other people, but having that empathy, being able to put yourself into other people's shoes. And then I think in a nutshell, some of that concept is just being kind to each other.
Yeah, but it starts with you, right?
Yeah.
So you need to do a little bit of reflection as well around, what are some really things that are strong points about me? And I'm not talking about stuff that's on your CV. What are some of my real strengths? But what are some things that I might be able to do in the future or be better at in the future with support? And it's about coming to terms with those things.
Yeah.
And then looking at practical ways to interact with others to realize those goals. And I think that if we can do that at a personal level with some reflection, we're absolutely going to have a greater understanding for the uniqueness and the difference that diverse people in our communities can bring, and how we might actually leverage those.
Okay.
Those diverse ways of thinking.
What if I'm someone that says, but Cindy, I've got no strengths? How would you work with someone like that?
I'll get them out of you, don't worry. Everybody has a strength, and particularly if you're a business owner, right there and there are a certain set of unique skills that entrepreneurs have that other people don't have. And it's really about being able to find the person that you were when you started all of that and going, where's that person with all the gumption and the guts that, dropped everything to get something going? You've got to go back and find that person and look at all the things, all the attributes that made that person tick, and get up and keep them up at night about, what is this going to work and what things am I going to try tomorrow? And, go back to the start. Think about why you started doing things and who you were when you did that. Because it's easy for us to get so bogged down in our businesses, we lose who we were when we started and what we were about. And I think it's about reconnecting with that to help us realize, wow, I did have a lot of strengths and I still do, and I used them to do good things. And so it's about helping people to go back and unpack that.
Okay, so let's talk about I'm going to ask you some questions in relation to potential strengths, and let's walk through them. So just to make sure that I'm on the same alignment of thought, I guess. So would being curious be a strength?
Absolutely. I think curiosity can result in investigating things that perhaps people wouldn't have investigated without that curiosity behind them as a foundation. So it will lead you into looking into things that perhaps haven't been given, great attention. So I think curiosity is a great strength.
Okay. What if I'm a dreamer? Is that a strength?
I'm all for the dreamers. Nothing happens without a dream first.
Okay.
But you've got to put a dream into action. And so it's the ability to put practical strategies in place around making a plan to execute something. And so while the dreaming part might be a strength, the practical strategies around developing an action plan might be something that you can be better at in the future with support. So that's the sort of thing we would sort of talk about.
Okay. What if I'm assertive?
Being assertive can be a strength, but can also be someone's undoing as well. And it's about having, again, a balance with tact and with empathy, which we talked about before, to ensure that when you're being assertive, it's actually constructive.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main point. And, we all have different personality traits, and we all have different values, experiences, and backgrounds that guide the way we behave.
Yep.
And so we have to appreciate that also the people sitting around us have that too. And
Absolutely.
So if we want to be assertive, we want to make sure it's constructive and it's helpful.
Being organised, is that a strength?
Being organised is a strength. It's certainly not a strength that I have.
Nor I.
And I envy those who are very organised.
Yeah.
In saying that, I know people who are so organised that when change comes along or something unexpected happens, they can struggle with implementing a different way of doing things. And I think at the moment, with this whole COVID-19, I think that's certainly been a challenge for people in those roles where there are high organisational skills that are required.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's got to be some support for those people who are highly organised about having an opportunity to think outside the box. And the more that they give them the opportunities to do that, the more that they can contribute to meaningful conversations in those organisations about the outside the box ideas, then when change comes along, they're definitely going to be better equipped to cope with it.
Yeah. And so I work with a lot of my clients with using the DISC profile, the dominant, influential, steady, and conscientious. And it's really interesting how you get people to go through and do a personality profile. There's a number of different ones out there, of course. And when they start to read back their results, they can really identify how close it really is to them, which I think is a real positive. It's a real self-awareness process. But the real value from any of those types of process will be learning how to work with other distinctive styles. So within the DISC profile, for example, D is the dominant leader. And very results orientated, very task focused, very short, abrupt. And the stats tell us that 3% of people in the world are high Ds. If that's true, I've probably met them all, I think. So, but the high D is still a leader that you can work with, even if you're right at the other extreme, which may be that steady sort of a player that just wants things to be routine. And by learning about what they're looking for or how they want to operate, it actually helps people be a good human with each other.
Yeah.
So and especially for the dominant leader, because they're looking for results. They're looking for results, and so by them understanding that of working with, say, an influential leader or a steady leader or a conscientious leader means a change of behavior from them to get the best result. All of a sudden you start seeing a much more engaged workforce because we're taking care of each other. So, and you know, that's just my sort of take on it, but very similar to you take it down into, so I look at 4 main personality traits. You look at people individually and uniquely, which I think is just amazing.
And I think that, you know, and the personality frameworks are really helpful to put common language towards some of those things. But then I think too, it's really about sharing it and being open about it and letting the complexities of each other become part of what we share, and having that level of vulnerability so that we're building trust and we can be understanding and open about those things. And I think that that's difficult in some organisations, and it's difficult for some people intrinsically. But the more that we provide people with the safety to do that, through setting an example, where leaders use storytelling, for example, to support their staff and being more open and providing new ideas. Storytelling is really, really powerful. And so it's a great tool for leaders to use, or for anyone who's working in a group of colleagues that are trying to sort of get to know them and what they can bring to the organisation more. So yeah, absolutely. I think that having those frameworks and the shared language is important, and then breaking it down into that more human element makes it relatable.
Yeah, absolutely. And storytelling, I love that whole concept, because at the moment, if I'm a leader of an organization, if I'm a leader of a team, yes, I'm wanting to people. I want to be the leader at this time. You know, it's like that sports person that's 5 minutes to go in the game, or it's a minute to go and the scores are locked. I want the ball because I want to try and make something happen for my team. So, and it's a similar sort of concept, I guess, in a crisis, because I want to be the leader in a crisis, because the leader's primary concern is to look after their people. So, but during this time, I'm really hopeful that leaders actually take stock as they move through this, and they reflect back and they think about that concept of storytelling. Because I still share stories around the fantastic team that I had that worked and navigated our way through the floods of 2011 here in Brisbane, with the store that we rebuilt for Bunnings at Rocklea. So an amazing team, amazing stories, and those storytelling processes help inspire and ignite the next generation. So that concept of storytelling, absolutely hold on to that while we're going through this, and make note as you go, because we've got a lot of leaders on the front line, especially, that are doing fantastic work, keeping their teams engaged, comforting them, holding it, but still performing at a pretty high level. And they're going to have these stories of how they did that. And yeah, I think that that's really important.
And I think that these types of experiences can really shape the way that we come out of it.
Yeah.
And the story that we will tell. We have control of the story that we will tell in the future. And I think that that's a really powerful place to be in, is that we, as much as we feel that so much is out of our control, there are a lot of things that are in our control.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to take a step back sometimes and say, well, I can choose how we react to this.
Yeah.
And make positive ways forward in terms of being the writer of that story at the end.
Yeah.
So about getting out of the headspace of I've just got to put out the fires that are in front of me right now, and taking some time to step back from everything and have those sort of more that broader thinking time to be able to navigate through the change.
Absolutely. And it was interesting you talked about that. I just shared over at Think and Grow business page that, you know, crisis, every crisis that we face will change us, and where it's ultimately our choice whether that change is going to be a positive change or whether that change is going to be a negative change. And I know there's going to be some people that listen to that saying, Tony, that's just too simple. That's just too simple. I've got all this stuff happening around me, but ultimately it's so true, because we do make that choice. We are in control of that story. Am I going to be a victim of the COVID-19, or do I want to think back on this in 3 to 4 years and say, geez, I became a better leader, I'm a stronger person, I'm more resilient, I'm more tolerant and caring with my kids. I mean, that's the story that I want to be sharing. And my business grew because I was able to actually sit there and think about all those things that I wasn't happy with my business and focus in on my strengths and try and I've built this amazing program based around some of that. That's the story I want to be sharing. So I'm sure it's similar to yours.
Yeah, and I think that even though, I mean, not everybody, unfortunately, not everybody's going to be coming out of this with success. And I think that's a reality for some people.
Yeah.
But what are you taking from that experience? So even if it's not all unicorns and rainbows for you at the end, what can you take away from what you've learned? And did you really give it a hard crack? Did you really give it a go? Have you given it everything? Have you thought about new ways to change what you do? Have you been able to keep people in your business engaged and motivated while they're not necessarily working with you every day? Or are you going to have a workforce problem as well at the end of it if you're still open? You've got to try and work towards avoiding those things. And I think if you can be honest with yourself and say, no, you know what, I gave it everything I had. I've put every resource I could have into ensuring that we were here in the future. And if it just didn't happen for you, that's okay. Learn from it. Be proud of the effort that you put into it and put a new plan in place for what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
So even if you have to be one of those businesses that is just going to take the hit, take it, own it, and move on. And move into something new and think about ways that you can do things differently on the new journey.
And in many ways, that concept of success is going to be relative to each and every person. So success to me is going to be different to success for yourself, for example. And, one of the key things that I talk about when I talk about my great team at Bunnings at Rocklea during those flood times is while the store was closed, and we were closed for 3 months. And we closed, we rebuilt within a 3-month period. But during that time, I had a team of 150 team members, and I had my management team who were more immediate. And predominantly for the first month to 6 weeks, it was me and my management team setting up plans, cleaning out, gutting out the old. We had some amazing support from our support teams in state and head office, of course, but we predominantly worked together. So from a team from 150 down to a team of maybe 15 at max. Now during that time, the rest of my team were put around all the other stores in our immediate area. And thankfully so, because my store was closed and Oxley was closed, a lot of the other stores suddenly saw some really peak trading, right? So, but the real risk that I saw and my leadership team saw was that we didn't want to open without our team. So we didn't want to lose those team members to the stores that they were in. And that can often happen. Someone goes to another store, gets treated really well, and they'll say, no, I won't go back to Rocklea. I'll stay here wherever here would be for them. And one of the really proud things that I had with that was that when it came time for us 3 weeks before we reopened and we had to restock our shelves, every single team member came back to be part of the team. And that wasn't luck. That wasn't luck at all. That was part of a coordinated program from my leadership group that kept them communicated with, kept them engaged. We would catch up with them. We'd visit them in their stores. We'd bring them in for a sausage sizzle at our offsite warehouse. All of these things that kept them connected in with Rocklea, so that when we said, hey guys, we need you, we've got to restock the shelves, they were there. And that's the proudest thing that I had. So that was huge success. Now, what was the monetary side of that? I can't quantify that because I didn't have to go out and recruit brand new people. I had my team. So that was my success. That was my greatest success out of that. So success is going to be relative. So just because you come out of here, out of the crisis, you might have a different model, you might have a different outlook, you might be changing things completely. That's success.
Yeah, and I mean, Tony, I've been in the social impact world for a few years now, and the biggest message I can share with a lot of people that I talk to is it's not always about the economical efficiencies you're going to get by putting these things in place.
Yeah.
It's the impact. And I kind of get blank looks sometimes, but they go, what do you mean? How do you measure the impact? And I say, but it's not about measuring it. It's about being in touch with the good humans that you're impacting and understanding the differences that you've made for them because you've put things in place to support them to be included in strategic decision making, and you put things in place to help them bring their whole selves to work and give their whole selves to their work and build commitment and engagement. Because you've done all those things, their impact on their life at work is going to be far more and much more, deliver more for a business than looking at your bottom line. Because you know that those people are going to contribute to anything you ask them to contribute to that will fix that bottom line for you. But without your people, without your good humans, that business doesn't work. So it's really important, I think, to think about the impact that leaders can have on the good humans in their businesses rather than the impact on the business from their good humans. So I think that there's a different way that we can approach the way that we look at how we support people in our business.
Absolutely. And coming into the Easter break, please, everyone, be a good human, be kind, be respectful, be thoughtful, and take care of each other. We really need that in this particular time.
Absolutely. And if you can think about COVID like glitter, that's what I keep telling my son. COVID is glitter. You touch something with glitter and it gets everywhere. It's a bit like that. So that's how we're living at the moment. COVID's glitter. Okay. And that's how we can relate to that. So COVID's glitter.
COVID is glitter. I'm gonna put that on a picture quote, I think. COVID. I'm going to add it to the comments. And Cindy, we've been talking for just under 30 minutes. It's amazing what can happen and how quick good conversation can go. So thank you very much for giving up 30 minutes of your time this afternoon.
No problem at all, Tony.
So if anyone wanted to catch up with Cindy, I've put her web address in the comments, cindycorrie.com.au. She does a lot of work with good humans and teaching not so good humans to be good humans. So.
Everyone's a good human. Sometimes they just haven't unpacked it yet. But that's all.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Tony.